Vernon. I'm Peter Donovan, and today we're going to take a look at Proposition 1. Proposition 1 is a measure that will be on this November's ballot, and it allows the citizens of Mount Vernon to weigh in on a pretty important decision, an issue that's become quite a problem in the last couple of years. Maybe you've already noticed the problem, but if you're like me and a lot of other people, you might be driving right by or driving right over the problem every single day without realizing what an urgent issue it is for our city. I'm talking about our transportation system, our streets, our traffic signals, our signs, our bridges, and our sidewalks. The city's responsible for maintaining all of this infrastructure. And the reality is, since the Great Recession began in 2008, the funding is just not there. Let me show you what I mean. First, let's take a look at this street, the new LaVenture-Anderson connection. It's nice, right? Streets like this, if they were left alone without maintenance, would last about 25 or 30 years. The expense of completely replacing a street far exceeds the cost of repairing it throughout its life. If our streets department is able to make regular repairs by sealing the street or resurfacing it, we can extend the life of a street like this exponentially. Right now, I'm on a street that's near failing by most engineering standards. You can see the cracks and the separation in the pavement here. This street probably could have been saved by regular maintenance 6 or 7 years ago, but now it needs to be completely replaced. This is a problem that Mount Vernon and many cities in Washington State are facing. Maintenance that the city has had to defer due to lack of funding is beginning to catch up with us. To respond to this urgent need, the state of Washington has given cities the opportunity to let their citizens decide how to fund for the future of their transportation needs. Right now we're going to go in here, City Hall, and talk to Mayor Jill Boudreau about Proposition 1 and to find out what we, the citizens of Mount Vernon, can do to pave the way for our future. Excuse me, Mayor Boudreau.
Yeah.
Do you have a minute to talk about Proposition 1?
Oh, of course. Come on in, Peter.
So, Proposition 1, our streets.
Right.
We took a look at some of our streets and they're kind of a mess. So I want you to level with me.
Okay.
Is it too late? Do we have to tear everything down and start over from scratch?
Oh my gosh, I don't think it's too late, but I think we need to pay attention.
So what is it exactly that needs to be done?
Oh my goodness. So there's a lot that needs to be done, and it's really not just paving our streets, but that's a big part of it. So when we talk about transportation, what I find is a lot of the public thinks that we're talking about buses, but we're really not. So it's our streets, which we have 274 lane miles of streets in our city. And that's the equivalent of going from Vancouver, Washington to Blaine. It's a long ways. Yeah. So not only do we have a lot of streets, but we have about 5,000 signs that we have to take care of. We've got 31 traffic signals that we have to take care of. And we have requirements from the federal government about sidewalks and ADA accessible types of walkways. So there's a whole lot of things that we're talking about when we're taking a look at what the needs are with our transportation system.
Yeah, that is a lot of infrastructure. So you must have a streets department then of 20 people, 30 people that manage this, right?
Not quite. We have an awesome street crew department. There's 9 people total. So we have a street supervisor and 8 crew members. They take care of not only things like pavements, sidewalks and signals that I mentioned, but they also take care of our sewer lines. They take care of any vegetation that might occur, anything that has to do with inclement weather. So they are an incredibly busy crew of talented people.
Wow, I guess they are. So what has funding looked like up to this point, and why is it that City Council now is needing more funding for it?
Right. So we have really good measures of how we keep track of funding. And in the past, City Council's been very dedicated and very conservative in allocating very specific revenue sources to our street department, and that's good. However, during the recession, things had to be put off or deferred. And so now we're really looking at an investment of about $1 million a year minimum just to maintain the infrastructure that we have. And over the past several years, it's fluctuated between $400,000 and $500,000. So there's quite a large gap. And that's something we've been talking with our city council about for about 1.5 years. And so they've made some really important decisions.
Okay. So funding historically for these things has come from gas tax and property tax. Am I close there?
Close. It's real estate excise tax has been one of the most devoted. You're right. Gas tax is included, and that's really fluctuated a lot. And we have put some general fund money into our street department, yes.
Okay. So why then can't council just raise taxes? Or I've even heard that they could just impose a card tab fee without even asking the public.
Right, you're right. So I think anytime a governing body wants to raise more funding, there's a lot of very thoughtful discussion that has to take place. Our council, I think, has been very wise to ask the voters for their opinion. And so that's why we're seeing Proposition 1 as a choice, because it is raising taxes. This proposition is to raise it in the form of a sales tax. And that way, in some of the discussions with City Council, and our public should certainly ask council members their opinion, but this way, all the users of our infrastructure have a part in this. So not just property owners, but anyone who comes to our city, anyone who lives in our city, drives on the roads, uses our trails, has the opportunity to contribute funding to then help that system.
As you're saying that, I'm thinking of the thousands of people who visit in April for Tulip Festival. So they would be helping us out.
They would, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right, so November, that's when the Proposition 1 is on the ballot.
That's right.
And how much funding will Proposition 1 raise for Mount Vernon?
So Proposition 1, again, it's a choice of our voters. It is the choice to raise our sales tax by 0.2%. So that's 0.002. So to make it a little simpler to understand, if our public were to choose this and they made a purchase of $10, it would be an additional 2 cents on top of that $10 purchase. And that 2 pennies may seem like a little small amount of money, but we have estimated over $1 million could be dedicated to our transportation if this were to pass. And that amount of money will help us maintain what we have. It will help us improve what we have, and it will help us future fund capital projects that are so much needed now. So it's an amazing opportunity for us to make a future investment.
Okay. So Proposition 1 then is taking care of and taking responsibility for what we already have.
Of course.
It's for building for the future and the future growth that we expect.
It is.
At what point does the city of Mount Vernon say, that's enough funding? We have enough money now, we're all caught up and we're all built for the future, and this tax isn't needed anymore, or maybe it is needed. How is that decision made? How long will this go?
Sure. So the legal mechanism that allows council to put this out for a decision is restrictive. So number one, any monies raised through this 0.2% increase, if it passes, is legally designated to spend in our transportation system. And so that's already what's called restricted revenue. It can't be spent for other things. So that's something that a lot of voters like to know. The other thing about this provision is that it is a 10-year cap. So this would be in place for a 10-year period, and then the tax would go away unless another decision was made, again, by the voters.
So this funding is restricted. Its uses are completely restricted to transportation.
That's right.
Okay, so Proposition 1 then it's something that benefits the public, and it really is the public's decision.
It absolutely is, and dozens of other cities in our state have gone through a similar process in having the voters decide on the level of investment that goes into our streets infrastructure.
Okay, Mayor Boudreau, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us. I think we learned a lot about Proposition 1. For some people, this might raise more questions.
Right.
How can we find out more information?
You bet. So a couple different ways. Our city website has a button on the front page that says Transportation Benefit District. So we want to make sure people can press on that button and look at information that we have that's been put out there for the last year as we talk to council. But also remember, we have mayor's coffees regularly, and this is certainly something that I would love to talk to people more about, more details and answer questions on for them. So either mayor's coffee or make sure our website has information.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.